we have an interesting opportunity with our Jag. Normally, when a car comes into the workshop, we spend all of our time and all of our budget just trying to get it to work properly and make it look a bit better. But on this special occasion, we actually have a bit more room to manoeuvre and slightly more cash, so we can have a look at doing some extra improvements. And the one I have in mind is going to effectively give the internals of our lusty V8 a spring clean, which will have far-reaching benefits. And I'm pretty confident this is not something you'll have seen before. Now, we know this car runs on petrol, but unfortunately petrol isn't quite as pure as we'd like it to be, so when you burn it, you end up with carbon deposits. Now, this car is over 10 years old, which means there's quite an opportunity for those carbon deposits to build up. So why is that bad? Well, it compromises the efficiency of an engine. So you end up with higher emissions, lower fuel consumption, and of course, worst of all on a sports car, lower performance because of a lack of horsepower. Now, wouldn't it be lovely if you could spring clean the inside of an engine just like you would on the outside of a car? Well, there is a way, but first of all, I want to do a little test. What I have to do using my spectrum analyzer is gauge the current condition of the engine before I start making any improvements, because otherwise I won't be able to measure my progress. This gas analyzer measures the contents of the exhaust, the emissions from our car, and the two things we're really interested in are the top one here, carbon monoxide, and this one down here, which is the hydrocarbons. Now, the carbon monoxide, you're looking at a little bit under 1%, which is great because an MOT failure would be just over 2.5%, so that's pretty good. Looking at hydrocarbons, not looking quite so good. We've got 540 parts per million, and actually the failure is 200, so actually that's a bit of a fail, not good, but we can definitely make a vast improvement with our next process. So I whip out the fuse for the petrol pump which stops fuel entering the engine. You'll see why in a second. Then I wheel out this special machine which looks like one of those portable air conditioners but is way cooler than that. So what I'm going to do is connect this engine to this magical box of tricks here which is going to decarbonise the fuel system. Just with this little valve here. And the idea is then the machine with a little bit of compressed air is actually going to force some highly refined fuel into the fuel injection rail. So basically, the engine's going to be running off that fuel rather than the fuel from the fuel tank. I'm also just going to disable the return valve so it doesn't go back to the tank, and that way the fuel stays in the fuel injection system. But what makes this fuel very special is that when it's actually running, the car's running off this fuel, it's actually going to strip out all of the carbon in the system, right from here all the way down to the very back to the end of the exhaust system. It's kind of like a colonic irrigation for an engine. The highly refined fuel is actually two elements that clean different parts of the engine. One side is for pre-combustion, that's all the mechanical elements up to the combustion chamber, and the other cleans everything from the injectors through to the very tip of the exhaust, including the cap. This stuff is so much more thorough than a £20 engine flush chemical from your local motor factor. The engine needs to be warm, and I'll fix the throttle at about 1200 RPM, which is faster than tick over and will help suck the fuel in. Next, I wind up the air pressure in the system to just under 40 psi, which matches what would be coming from the fuel injection pump. And then I wait. It's not a rapid process and takes about an hour. With jobs like this, when the engine is running, you need plenty of ventilation in your workshop. This service costs around £70 depending on engine size, but there's no better way of getting the coked up carbon out of the engine other than taking everything apart and cleaning it. The moment of truth. Let's see how clean our engine is now. Okay, well here goes. Well, we've pretty much halved the carbon monoxide content of these gases and almost totally eradicated the hydrocarbons. That is amazing. Your local garage might not offer this service just yet. It is brand new technology after all, but it's being rolled out as we speak. When Mike first turned up with our Jag, from the outside at least, it seemed like a pretty clean car. And now, thanks to some clever science, it's just as clean from the inside of the engine all the way to the tip of the exhaust. And that means the emissions are better for the environment, you get better miles to the gallon, and best of all, you get really good performance as well. But there's still more I can do. Ed? How you doing, buddy? You all right? I'm doing very well, actually. It's all going to plan. I managed to get the big cat to run for more than 5 minutes without cutting out, which is great. Fantastic. Nice and simple? It's never easy in the workshop, but I did manage to fix it for a lot less money than it should have cost us. Well, that's music to my ears and to my wallet. Well done. Well, also, you remember you kind of gave me carte blanche to get this car totally sorted. I managed to find a way of cleaning the entire fuel system from the injectors all the way to the tip of the exhaust pipe, and now this thing is so clean.